Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the final episode of what has been an amazing, if I may say so myself, an amazing series on how to build a visible and profitable business right here on LinkedIn. If you're tuning in for the first time, first of all, where have you been the whole of June? While I've been here, where have you been? But apart from that, if you're tuning in and you have no idea what this is, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a show, a special live series that I've been running throughout the month of June, talking about the topic of how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. Now, we've been going live every Monday evening, just like tonight, and I've been having a conversation with an amazing guest, one of my clients who have all been amazing, amazing women. And tonight, trust me, you're going to want to tune in tonight for my final guest in the series because she is like awesome, And then on Tuesdays, we've been doing, but I say we because you've been on this with me, right? But I've been doing solo series on Tuesdays, talking, giving you real practical suggestions on how you can build your visibility and profitability right here on LinkedIn. If you have missed any of these shows, go and check it out on LinkedIn. You can kind of try and find it via LinkedIn, right? By clicking the live tab from my profile page. Or you can also look for it on YouTube under my YouTube channel, Mildred Talabi, because this is being streamed right here live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube. And YouTube actually makes it easier to find videos. But don't tell LinkedIn I said that, right? Okay. But listen, tonight is going to be awesome. What I want you to do, as always, is to, as you tune in and as you join us live, just let me know who you are. I want to know who's watching, right? I want to know who's live with us. Let me know who you are, where in the world you're tuning in from, because we've got people from all over the world usually tuning into this: UK, US, Africa, Asia, everywhere. So let me know who you are. Say hello in the comments and where you are tuning in from. And trust me, you're going to be really, really, really glad that you tuned in live tonight, because for this final conversation, we're going to go with a bang and hear from one of the most prolific, I like the word prolific, one of the most prolific entrepreneurs that I know in my space. But we're going to find out exactly why she's so prolific in just a second. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Mildred Talabi, and what I do is I help women, female leaders, women in business, to build your personal brand right here on LinkedIn. What is the point of building your personal brand? Good question. Because when you do this and you do it on LinkedIn and you do this successfully, you're going to be able to increase in 3 areas over time. You're going to increase your influence, you're going to increase your income, and you are going to increase your impact. I don't know about you, but for me, that is a pretty good deal that we get out of building ourselves right here on LinkedIn. So that's exactly what we're going to do tonight. And so in this session, we're going to talk about, I'm going to have a conversation with my guest, talk about how she managed to get visible, build her brand, learn more about her, and then there'll be takeaway lessons from you throughout the whole process. So get ready, join in, and as I said, react to show that you're watching if you're tuning in. Even if you're watching later on replay, react to show that you're watching, just so I know who you are, and drop a hello in the comments. Let me know what part of the world you're tuning in from. Okay, so Janet, good to see you, Janet. Thanks for joining us live. Good to see you, Janet. Do what Janet has done. Don't be shy and react and let me know where you are in the comments. Okay, where in the world you're tuning in from. So I am going to introduce my guest for tonight. Wanyi Buffet. Please tell me I did not butcher your name, but I am so glad that you're here, tuning in from Abuja, Nigeria. Woo, woo, woo. I'd love to see you here. Thank you for joining us. My guest tonight, I am going to intro her as I let you know about her. Keep typing in the comments where you're coming from. So I am going to be in conversation actually with a lady who has quickly become one of my favorite clients today. Her name is Dr. I'm going to give her official title is Dr. Adanna Steinacker. I hope I pronounced that surname right. If not, she's going to correct me, right? Okay, Dr. Adanna Steinacker. Adanna is a qualified medical doctor and who's, she's studied medicine, really built up in that area. And then in 2015, she found fame. I'm going to say unexpectedly, but she's going to clarify that for us, right, when she comes on. But she found fame online when the dance video, her wedding dance video of her and her husband doing the dance at their wedding, her husband David, went viral. And so since then, she has gone on to build a massive social media following of almost 1 million followers across YouTube, Instagram, and now LinkedIn with her brand, which is called the House of Adanna brand. So she is also a wife, a mother of three, and a prolific entrepreneur. And her real passion is empowering women to be the best version of themselves in all arenas. So we are going to talk about this topic because, ladies, I'm here. I'm here. We're here, right? We want some answers. How can we be the best version of ourselves in all areas? And I think Adanna is going to be an awesome person to share that with us. So please help me welcome to the stage Dr. Adanna Steinacker. Hi.
Hey, thank you so much, Mildred. That was a very warm welcome. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us in the show. So many things we want to get to know about you. Where I want to start, really, because I mentioned it in the intro, I want to
Mm.
know, for those who don't know about it, tell us about that viral video. Tell us about how that catapulted you, and then we're going to work backwards from there, right? Because we want to know all about your education and everything else. But let's start there.
Mm. Okay. Um, there's no, well, I have to say, thank you to everyone who's tuned in or who is watching this live. We appreciate you being here. I'm not going to bother with the intro because Mildred did a very, very great job. Thank you. Taking you back to where it all started. The dance video, it was actually not on my wedding, but actually before my wedding. We were preparing for the wedding and we were going. My husband actually loves Afro beats. I think that's one of the things that connected us. I mean, he's German, and it's not typical for Germans to love Afrobeat. So when we met at uni, that's pretty much the foundation of our friendship, was the connection to Africa, the music, the food, the culture. And so anyway, whilst we are planning our wedding, we decided that we're gonna dance to Afrobeat. And on that evening in the living room, the song was playing, and I got up and I was dancing, and I said to him, "Get up, let's dance," as we do normally. We were just in the living room, just acting a fool. And then I said, "Oh, I'm gonna record this video," because at the time, I remember I had 453 followers on Instagram, and that was pretty much
Very
my
exact.
exact 453. It was mostly my friends and my family. And I have friends and family all over the world, and at the time I was in the UK. My family are Nigerian, so Instagram was pretty much a way for me to let my friends and family get a BTS of my lifestyle besides medical school, because I was in medical school at the time. And so when I decided to record the video, the intention was, I will put this dance video so that my friends and family know that I'm happy with this man that I've chosen to spend my life with. There was no intention other than that. And so I recorded it and I put it up. And at the time, there was no IGTV, IG Reels, you know, IG feed post allowed you to post 15 seconds. So literally that dance video was a 15 seconds video that I put out, and forgot that I had put it out. I think it was the next day when I was getting messages from friends, in Canada, in Nigeria, saying, "Hey, I'm pretty sure I saw you and David dancing on this website." And I would say, "Hey, it's not me. I don't think it's me. I mean, why would you see me dancing on a random, you're in Canada, for crying out loud?" And I got a lot of those messages that day. And I thought, I mean, something's off. It doesn't even make sense. And I took out my phone, and literally I got the shock of my life. Literally, there was 30,000 people. 30,000.
Jesus.
I was
Wow.
like, what just happened? And it felt like I had 30,000 pair of eyes in my living room.
Mm.
I was so paranoid. I put my phone down, and that's when I started using the security protection for the cameras, because I just felt like truly I was being invaded in my own house. But anyway, that was
Mhm.
the accidental virality, and over time, I intentionally turned that into a brand.
Wow, 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 wow. That's a pretty kind of to go from 453 to 30,000 eyeballs on you overnight,
Yeah,
literally, is quite a bit, you know? So,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
thanks for sharing that with us. That's so interesting. If you haven't seen that video, it's somewhere on YouTube, you know, somewhere on the internet.
Mildred, I will have you know that you will not be able to find that
You
video
took
because
it down.
at some point when my father found
Mhm.
the video and he called me, he said, I give you 24 hours to take this thing off the internet. This is not what you're supposed to be doing in medical school. You know, your typical African parents. And so
Mhm.
obviously I took it down, but I'm sure you would find it somewhere. Somewhere.
Oh, I have found pirate versions of it. Let's just
Yeah.
say that, but not the
Let's
official ones.
yeah, not the official. Let's just say since then, there's the
Mhm,
concept of, especially in the pandemic when TikTok blew up, and the entire concept of TikTok is
mhm.
hopping on dance trends. So
Yeah.
there's you will find a lot of dance videos of myself and my husband that we are now doing intentionally. But that
Mhm.
original one, that's you're I don't think you'll find that one, that very first one.
Wow, wow, wow. But okay, okay. So daddy calls, right, and sets the marching orders. So really, so to take us back, you were there. What country was this? Was it here in the UK to do
Yeah, I was
medical
in the
school?
UK.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
would no, no, actually no,
okay,
I was in Ireland. Actually, no, I had finished
okay.
my degree, which is where I met my husband in the
Hmm.
UK. And then for medical school, I got into Imperial College, and I just thought, hey, I've been in the UK for a few years. I want a change of environment. So
Hmm.
I sent in an application to medical schools in Ireland, and then I got into the Royal College of Surgeons, and then I moved to
Hmm.
Ireland. So this was happening in Dublin before I moved back to the UK.
Okay, okay. So you're in Ireland. But all right, let's go back to little Adanna, right? So to study medicine, medicine's
Mm,
one of those things you don't kind of accidentally fall into. Have you
mm.
always wanted to be a doctor?
Yeah, I have always wanted to be a doctor. I don't there was a thing, just I was very close to my grandmother growing up, and this was in Nigeria. Again, because I was young, and I just couldn't understand. I couldn't understand her diagnosis. For as a kid, all I knew was she was always in pain. I mean, conditions I know now to be arthritis, right? But she always complained about joint pains and back pains. And I felt, again, I just felt like nobody was telling me what was wrong with my grandmother. But now I know that I probably wasn't asking the right questions, or
Mm,
my parents just didn't want to mortify me with the details.
mm,
But I remember always saying to myself, when I grow up, I'm gonna find out what's wrong with grandma. I'm gonna find out,
mm,
and I would treat grandma. And of course, in my very naive and childlike perspective or outlook in life, I thought that my grandma would still stay the way she is whilst I grew up, went to med school, found the cure, and came back to treat her. But
mm,
unfortunately, I lost her before that happened. But she was one of my biggest inspiration for studying medicine.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many years into your so you lost her before you became a qualified doctor?
I lost her before I even finished high school.
Okay. So what made you
Yeah.
keep going then?
No, so really just that
Mhm,
determination that
mhm,
it's a promise to myself and to my grandmother, and if I cannot find the cure for my grandmother, I'll find it for other grandparents, or my uncles and aunties, or my parents
mhm,
as well when they got to that age. And I mean, I'm an empath naturally. I love to serve, to care for people. And really, when I looked around me, the little I knew about degrees or careers, there was
mhm,
no career description that fit into that narrative of devoting my life and my service to others. And of course, I say this subjectively, but I mean,
mhm,
like, really caring for people, and from a healing perspective, It was really
Mhm.
just medicine. And so that just became my life goal. I was determined because I didn't even get to
Mhm.
medicine the first time round. I did a diploma of basic sciences first. I think it was like a 2 year diploma. Then I did a degree in biomedicine. Then I did medicine. So medicine is pretty much you can call it my third degree. But I know that at
Mhm.
every point, I would have had friends who shared the same vision. But, after a few years, they're like, mate, we need to start working. Like, I can't be bothered with school. But for me, it was just that determination that I would not stop until I achieved it.
So how did it feel when you achieved it? When you finally got your qualification?
Oh, Mildred, are you about to make me cry? You are not about to make me
Go for
cry. You know one
it.
thing, Mildred, and I know you can relate to this, where as
Mhm.
women, or maybe let me speak for myself, right? Maybe
Mhm.
as a someone who is so hard on herself, somewhat of a
Mm.
perfectionist, which is wrong. I'm too hard on myself. I always want to go go go. It's almost like, what's the next challenge, what's the next challenge?
Mm.
I don't usually take the time to acknowledge my wins. I don't.
Mm.
But I tell you that medical school, that day that I got on stage to collect my degree, till
Mm.
this day, it has is the most single most important thing that I've done, where I've actually pat myself on the back to say, girlfriend, you did this. Right? So when you ask about how I feel
Mm.
super, super proud, because I will not do it again. Like, you could not even pay me $1 million to go back to medical school. It killed me.
Mhm.
And so I got to the end of the road like, hey, we're here, we did it. So of course I was very, very proud, but I will not do it again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. And I totally get it. I think that's like a high achiever thing where it's kind of you're
Yeah,
going for the goal, and celebrating wins is one of the hardest things I learned. I had to
yeah.
force myself to learn how to do, to just stop and
Mm.
well done, Mildred, and pause for long
Yes.
enough before you pursue the next thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I totally get that. Okay, so you do this and you have this you get your thing, you qualify as a doctor. How long were you working as a doctor before you kind of realized that actually there's more that I'm being called to do or more that I have to give than just medicine?
Mm. Mm. So, okay. So I said there's a bit of a, it's not like a very straight answer, because
Mm-hmm.
in this time, babies were being made, and and as you know, equality or not, biology favors the woman when it comes to taking that maternity leave. So there
Mm-hmm.
were breaks in my career with every child that I had. So I would say, excluding my maternity leave and maybe trying to go back in for a bit or work part-time, the full years in medicine working as a doctor was 5 years. Was
Mm-hmm.
5 years. But and then, people ask me this, when was that point you realized that, hey, your purpose had evolved beyond the four walls of a hospital? Actually, this is what I say now. But
Mm-hmm.
my story, it didn't happen that way. There was no moment where I was like, I am going to do it. It just so happened that my second pregnancy was a risky pregnancy. I was pregnant with twins and I had lost one. So my obstetrician said, hey, if you don't want to lose that second baby, you better sit yourself at home. Because I mean, for me, you'd
Mm-hmm.
have to tie me down to actually not do anything, right? So
Mm-hmm.
she's like, you better sit yourself at home. And so it was the first time in my whole adult life where I was just with my thoughts. It was the first, I'd never
Mm-hmm.
experienced that, because my first boy at the time would go to nursery, my husband would be at work. So it was just me. pregnant at home. And I just thought,
Mhm.
"Hey, this is not working. This is not, we can't do this." So then I launched a business. That was my first sort of entrance into entrepreneurship. Because at the time, bear in mind that having a social media following didn't exactly make you an entrepreneur, right? The
Mhm.
mindset or the perspective was quite different. So my very first dive into entrepreneurship was during the time where I had to be on bed rest. And so
Mhm.
even after bed rest, when I did go back to work, that business started to grow, started to do well. And it was in the growth of this business that I then thought, hey, maybe my purpose has evolved beyond the four walls of a hospital. So I pretty much had
Mhm.
a plan B before escaping from my plan A.
Okay, okay. I want to talk about that idea of having a plan B. All right, so good to see you. Cassandra's in the house, Wamaka, Sharon, everybody. If you got questions for Adana as we have this conversation, feel free to drop them in the comments as well. And if anything she's saying is resonating with you, you're getting takeaways, drop them in the comments, and I'll read those out live. Okay, so this you're sitting there, maternity leave, you're bored out of your brains, essentially,
Literally.
you know, and you think, oh, let me start a business. First of all, tell us what that business was, but also what made
Mm,
you think to start a business. I mean, that's not necessarily the natural thought that most people would have,
mm.
at that stage in their life.
Okay. So there is the concept of nature and nurture, as
Hmm.
we're raised. And I did grow up around that sort of energy. Yeah. Like
Hmm.
my dad's an entrepreneur. um I come from a tribe in Nigeria, Igbo people. I don't know if there's anything you've heard about Igbo people, is we don't play with our businesses. Okay, give us all the money. But anyway, so the you know I grew up around that energy, and that energy wasn't clearly defined as entrepreneurship. I mean, nobody use those fancy words in Nigeria. You're a businessman or you're a businesswoman because you do
Hmm.
business, right? All the whole entrepreneurship and pitch deck and all of these things that I'd had to learn
Hmm.
in a Western context, that was not what I grew up around. I just grew up internalizing the energy that if you're doing, if you dip your hands into a few things and one of it is looking fruitful, pursue that. That's pretty
Hmm.
much how I internalized it. There was
Hmm.
nothing other than that. So if when I was on that bed rest, if when I tried my business it didn't work out, I would I would have just dusted my shoulder and made it back, like continued with my life.
Hmm.
So as far as like what was the it was really pretty much the inspiration around me that kind of made me go into entrepreneurship. And then let's talk about the business, right? A
Hmm.
few years before, no, about a year and a half before launching this business, I traveled to Kenya. I traveled to a village in Kenya called Malindi, and
Hmm.
I wanted to get a rural clinical work experience because it was very typical that if you were in medical school, you used your summers wisely, right? You would either, do research to publish a paper, or you would do a clinical experience. And most of the kids, or the students anyway, they would typically go to North America, Canada, the US. It was only a few people who went to Africa. And I mean, pretty much there was no organizations facilitating students coming. It was always word of mouth, like this person went here to this rural village and this happened, that happened. And again, as an adventurous person, I just said to myself, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go to somewhere in Africa. I chose Kenya. I didn't want to go to Nigeria
Hmm.
because I pretty much wanted that independence where I won't have to be watched by any family or
Hmm.
friends. I wanted that independence, but I also wanted to go to a place where I would blend in. So unless I
Hmm.
open my mouth to speak, assume I'm Kenyan until proven otherwise. So I still also
Mm-hmm.
wanted that sort of peace of mind to seamlessly integrate into society. And I did. It went well. I made friends with all of the surgeons. I was assisting with C-sections and deliveries, and it was just the best experience of my life. And because it was great, I unintentionally became an ambassador for pushing through and pushing out of your comfort zone. So that pretty much became
Mm.
my message. I came back to Ireland and told everyone about it, facilitate, pretty much just told everyone everything I did, gave them the contacts, they went. Then I went
Mm-hmm.
to Germany for my elective, and I told all the German students about this experience. And so the German students went. So they'll send me pictures of themselves
Mm.
in Malindi in Kenya. Hey Adanna, thank you. We're here because of you. And I
Mm.
so again, didn't even think to make it a business until I was sat by myself and my thoughts, and I was asking myself, what am I gonna do with my life? Then I remembered, I was like, hey, I was actually passionate about this travel experience where healthcare professionals would go to an African country to work. And so I then, to make it a business, I had to ask what was the problem. So I detailed everything that was the issues I experienced planning that trip. The fact that there was literally no organizations, no contact, no network,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. I didn't even know what accommodation I was gonna stay in. I needed to stay there for over a month, I think, or 2 months. So I booked a hotel for
Mm-hmm.
2 days. And once I arrived, I started going door to door, negotiating the
Mm.
prices. I mean, the
Wow.
things that I
Wow.
did. So what I then did was, hey, I'm gonna launch an organ like a company that looks after, or like, that is an all-inclusive experience, from the flights that take you to the country to the SIM cards
Mm-hmm.
used to call parents. My company pretty much provided it. So that was called Medics Abroad, pretty much taking
Mm-hmm.
medics to go abroad, but it was all inclusive from the moment they stepped out of the plane to the moment they left. And it was just fantastic. It was a great business opportunity that unfortunately
Mm-hmm.
got affected by the pandemic. Right.
Mm-hmm. Wow, wow, wow. There's a it says a lot about your character, all of this, just the determination, the whole going to a
Mm.
country you don't know, not only making it work for yourself and then making it work for other people
The
as
people,
well.
yeah.
So which
Yeah.
kind of leads us to, like, so your career has since evolved. So you've gone from being a practicing doctor, you had this business, setting up medics abroad, and then you've
Mm.
since evolved all the way down to where you are today with the House of Adanna brand, where you are
Mm.
partnering with brands all over the place, and you're speaking and facilitating and places like, in Davos, and
Yeah.
Cannes you just came back from, as
Mm.
Panina's asking, interviewing the likes of Danai. I don't know if I ever
Yeah.
say her name right. Is it
It's
Danai?
Danai.
Is it
It's
it's
Danai.
Danai? Yeah.
Danai. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the likes of Danai, all of that, and you have a TEDx talk that you did recently as well. So
Yeah.
give us like a nutshell of the evolution that you went
Mm.
through to get to where you are today, and what you do today with the House of Adanna brand.
Mm. Mm. Okay. So I have, I think the speaking one, I mean, that's a career on its own, right? Being a speaker. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there are people who just do this as a full-time career. And I've always loved speaking. Like, I was that child in high school, in primary school, that would gather their friends to tell stories about anything and everything. Like, I loved that sense of community, and I love that sense of sisterhood when you share. And so the way that I look at it sometimes is, you know, I'm still sharing, but I'm just sharing on a bigger stage, and that stage gets bigger and bigger. But at the
Mm-hmm.
core, it's still me, sat on the floor of my boarding school with my friends talking about anything, right? So I've just always loved sharing. And that's why, for me, speaking is more than just the profile or the validation. It's more than just the stage. It's really just about the message. Like, who am I talking to, and what are they gonna get out of this message by the time I walk off. So um let's just say, if I talk about how I've gotten here, it's really about saying yes, putting myself, being at the right place at the right time and saying yes. And that obviously will tie back to your whole brand, which is visibility, and we can touch on that later. But I've always been visible, and I've always been prepared. So whenever the opportunity comes, you meet someone who's prepared, ready to say yes and take it up. And that's kind of how I've gotten here for my speaking. As far as my social media platforms, as you know, like, you know, the industry, the influencer industry is a big deal now. The creator economy is a big deal now. But at the time of going viral, sharing, creating content for the sake of it, there was no, the word influencer literally didn't even exist. Like, nobody at the, it didn't exist. The industry was just not a thing. And then it became a thing. And you know, because it became an actual industry, there were all of these rules and standards being set that you either had to adjust to, or you just get forgotten, right? So I noticed that with the evolution of the sort of content, you know, before it was in the dark room, blurry, we take selfies, we post it all because we wanted to create. But when it became an industry, there was the need to niche down. You needed to, like personal branding, right? You know, what's your I help statement? Who do you help? What's your niche? And obviously, by being clear on that, you're more likely to then attract the right brands to work with. And so what I so for me, you know, I'm at this intersection of, I'm an influencer depending on the space I walk into, and I'm a media entrepreneur depending on certain spaces. And I realized that when I started walking into the corporate spaces, I mean, the people in the corporate spaces don't understand. They know about TikTok and LinkedIn and Instagram, but they don't respect it for as that's as simple as it is, because most of their 15-year-old kids are being an absolute mess on TikTok. So when you say, hey, I'm a TikToker, that person, that corporate exec is thinking about their 15-year-old who is probably doing a prank that got them in trouble. So they don't even take the industry seriously. And then I realized, I was like, hey, something actually needs to change here, because I want to work in this space, and these people probably don't take me so seriously. And then when I come to the influencer space as well, I feel like I pretty much had to like break down all my accolades so that I could just be an influencer for me to be accepted. Like, I was almost too serious in some way and too unserious in another way. And so I rebranded, because my YouTube or online presence used to be the Adanna and David family, because it was myself and my husband. And you know, that personal branding approach started with, hey, if I actually walked into this corporate space and I say House of Adanna, it sounds more like a fashion atelier than an influencer. So I was just intentional about changing things up, putting a media deck together, changing the way that I speak to the community, the sort of content, started bringing in some of my, you know, medical knowledge. I would do it in a lifestyle content context, of course. So all of that intentional branding pretty much made it look interesting in the corporate space, because suddenly you have this media entrepreneur that has close to 1 million followers. It's more welcoming than an influencer with with 3 million followers. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's about
Yeah.
understanding the strategy and the rooms that you're walking into and being intentional about it.
Yeah, yeah, and that word intentional you've used several times, and I think it's so key. If you want to achieve anything, you have got to become intentional about it. You don't casually become successful. You know,
Mm-mm.
you don't casually become an influencer, build a business, or even be visible on LinkedIn. You have to be intentional. So, I
Yeah.
love that you're emphasizing and highlighting that. You
Mm.
touched on the word visible, of course. this is about how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn. So, of course, we're going to go down
Mm,
that line of also hearing about your visibility on LinkedIn and beyond. But before
mm.
we get into that, what does the term visible mean to you? How do you define it for yourself?
Hmm. I think I've never had to really think about it in the way of actually explaining it to people. But I would say it's positioning yourself in a way that you want to be perceived even when you're not in that room. That's what visibility means to me, right? So if I was not here speaking to you and my profile was to be up, you know, and I didn't have to interact with anyone, what sort of work am I putting out there? From articles to pictures to videos, what am I putting out there? And what impression will somebody who doesn't know me form about me, even when they don't have the opportunity to speak with me? For me, that's visibility. And of course, that then takes it to the what it means on a day-to-day level, right? On a day-to-day
Mhm.
basis, like what are you putting out there that makes you visible? Yeah, so for me, that's
Mhm.
just that's it's like personal brand. Visibility to me is like personal branding. What do people think about you when you're
Mhm.
not in the room?
Yeah, they're very much linked, aren't they? So
Yeah.
yeah, so you said you've been visible from the get-go, kind of visible and prepared, you said has been
Hmm.
key to kind of your career success. So what has that looked like for you in your different spaces that you've occupied so far?
Okay, so for me, so let's divide it in the create into the creator space and the corporate space. I think this would be the two spaces that I pretty much like I'm very much involved in. Um so what does that look for me on a creator from a creator perspective? It's about the content that I'm putting out on my social media platforms and how active I am. What's the engagement like? Sometimes it's a bit of a tricky one because the creator world or the influencer space, right, is set up in a way that the algorithm favors content that's most likely to go viral or people are most likely to engage in. And let's be honest, those content are you know cats and dogs hugging, babies falling asleep,
Yeah.
people people chugging down a, a tub of ketchup, all of the sometimes like just like brain freezing things, right? Mindless
Mhm.
things that we all love to consume. And but of course, when you then go towards the education, hey, I want to talk about women's empowerment and I want to talk about sustainability and gender equality, the algorithm doesn't favor this sort of content. So,
Yeah.
when, yeah, it doesn't. So I'm in this intersection of, hey, let me do all of the fun things, but like, whilst you're laughing, hey, here's something about gender equality. So it's about trying to find a balance between entertaining and educational, and that's on a day-to-day level in my creator space. That's what it looks like. It just means
Mhm.
that I have to be putting out that content every other
Mhm.
day, as often as I can, right? And then
Mhm.
in the corporate space, I mean, should we talk about you being my coach,
Of
Mildred?
course, I will not hold you back.
Okay, so I'll give you that. So, and I'll say that that is one thing I know about myself that I do appreciate about myself is that anything that I don't, I typically will take the time to understand what space I want to break into. And when I
Mhm.
decide what space I want to break into, I start finding out how can I get there and who is key in helping me get there. So when I decided that I was going to break into the corporate space, I started with my rebranding my influencer thing so that it's not just an influencer, it's more than that, right? And then I knew that, you know, a lot of the corporate, you know, the corporate individuals who I want to connect with are not on they're not on these creator platforms, they're on LinkedIn. And then I realized that, hey, I might have been a creator for nearly 10 years, but I have no clue about LinkedIn, like what's happening.
Mm.
And so I started searching for LinkedIn coaches. I'm like, somebody's gonna coach me about how to use this platform, and I will dominate this platform. And then, if you remember, I mean, it
Mhm.
started off with the message I sent to you. I was like,
Yeah.
hello, you might not know me, Mildred. I'm interested in
Mm.
coaching. You know, I pretty much reached
Yeah.
out to you, right? Which is very telling, or which is should be maybe encouraging for people who want to attempt something that they don't know how to. I think investing in yourself is the biggest
Mm.
gift, right? Because then we work together, and all of the strategies that you help me with has gotten me to interview Bill Gates, and
Mm.
you know, interview Danai, and all of these corporate spaces, go to Davos, is because of my visibility on LinkedIn. So I have you to thank for that, don't I?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And the funny thing about how we connected is like I had been following you on Instagram. You know, Instagram's
Mm,
like that's
yeah.
my second place, third even. You know, and then I was like, and I loved your content on Instagram. You got very inspirational stuff. So then I was like,
Thank
oh,
you.
Adanna's crossing over to LinkedIn. You know, so it's like, and I love that. I love what you said about you're very strategic. You know, a lot of
Mm,
people, this is what I said, that you're intentional and you're strategic. It's not just, I'm going to try and figure this out. One, time
mm,
is of an essence. If you're busy, you're a mom and a wife, you got all these
mm,
businesses and stuff, trying to figure out LinkedIn yourself. Can you do
yeah.
it? Absolutely, because you're clever enough to. But
Mm,
is that the best use of your time and energy to try and work it out yourself? No. So you're like,
mm,
I'm going to be strategic. I'm going to get somebody to help me. And I love that kind of mindset, you know?
mm.
So, and so
Yes.
all your visibility has opened so many doors for you in different areas. And I'm going to ask Panina's question because she's on the edge of her seat with this one, right? She wants to
Mm.
know, what was it like meeting Denai? You know, I love her work. So
It
how
was
was
like,
that?
it was so powerful. You know, when it was like energy exchange, you know, because I love her work as well. I mean, if nothing else, Black Panther. I mean, Black
Oh,
Panther was
yeah.
the one that really put us on the map as, you know, as Black people in the film and entertainment industry, and she was just fantastic. And so of course I was going into this experience like in admiration already of somebody whose work I'm familiar with and who I love. And so, you know, we had to meet up before the actual event started. You know, she arrived, and we had to have a debrief on what the event was going to be about. And somewhere just along the line, we just went off on a complete tangent and spoke for over an hour. And this was not even the panel, you know, with herself and Sabrina. And I remember we just got on stage and we just thought, I mean, should we just call it a night because we've just said everything without even people being here? But it was just so powerful. And then we spent the evening together. We had dinner together, and she also said, "Hey, you're doing this in this space. I'm gonna connect you to a friend of mine who is the founder of, you know, African Leadership University, ALU." I did not even know about, you know, the founder, but she said, "Hey, I'm gonna put you in touch." So for me, that even that willingness to open more doors um from the position that she has already was very it was very inspiring, really. It was very inspiring.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, I love Black Panther. Who didn't love Black Panther?
Yeah,
You know, I love
I
it all.
mean,
You know, you know, and in that same
yeah.
conversation, you also spoke with Sabrina Elba that you mentioned as well.
Oh,
So yeah,
yeah,
which is awesome.
it was
Yeah,
awesome.
but
It was.
listen, I love that you said that deny is like kind of, oh, you gotta meet, I'm gonna introduce you to this person also. This is like, I might be biased on this, and I am, but it's true. Visibility breeds visibility, you
Right?
know. It's so like, the more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities come your way. Would you agree with that, Adana?
100%. But not
Mhm.
even the more opportunities come your way, but the more people feel inspired to make those introductions because
Mhm.
they're aware of the work that you're doing. I mean, that in itself is
Mhm.
visibility, that someone can see what you're doing and they know that the connection that they're about to make is not about to be a waste because you are doing something. Right? I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of women suffer from, whether it's imposter syndrome, but also they feel like, hey, I don't want to put out what I'm doing. It might come across like bragging, but we have this, and it depends on how you were raised. But there are these like kind of socially imposed, I don't know, stereotypes where you'll be bragging or don't let your left hand know
Mhm.
what your right hand is doing. Yeah, you should keep quiet. I'm like, please. I used to do that and then it didn't work. I'm just like, no, we're not keeping quiet anymore. No.
Yeah, that's right.
We're not.
There is no keeping quiet around here. That's not what we're about, you know.
And you
I
can
love
tell.
that.
The thing is, you can tell the difference between somebody talking about their work and bragging. I mean,
Mhm.
you can tell. And so maybe that's part of what you will teach, what you are coaching people, right? Is about how
Mhm.
you even phrase those accomplishments, right? How you
Mhm.
position yourselves, because it's more than just saying, hey, I just went and purchased this new bag and this new shoe. Nobody cares about your
Yeah.
new bag and new shoe. That's not what it is. It's really that
Mm.
the work that you've done, the skills of your hands, the intelligence of your brain, you've actually
Mhm.
put into action, and there's results, and there are people whose lives you've impacted, whose words you've, like, sorry, like, who have benefited from your words of
Mhm.
wisdom. I'm sorry, you have to share that, because you have to think about it that this is going to be impact at scale, isn't it? The more people know
Mm.
about it, the more impact that you have. So I don't think
Yeah.
women should be quiet.
Absolutely. It's like
Yeah.
a duty almost. Like, we have
Mm,
to start being visible. That's why that's my
yeah.
mantra. You have to start being visible. You can't keep all of that stuff inside of you. You're not going to be able to transform other people's lives if you
Mm,
just, we have this false humility stuff, you know? So, yes, Dr.
mm.
Evelyn, good to see you. Evelyn says, love this conversation.
Hi, Evan.
Dr. Alisola say, it is culture. My generation was raised to
Mm,
keep quiet. It is now time to change the narrative.
yes.
Absolutely. Yes, it's time to
Yes.
change that narrative. A lot of us as women, and this is, Adana, you're passionate about empowering women and kind of,
Mm-hmm.
helping women to step into their fullness. In
Yeah.
fact, your tagline on your LinkedIn banner says, I am not one thing no woman is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
talk to us about this idea in a few moments we have left, and how this has shaped
Mm,
your business and your life.
mm. Okay, so I am very much like, I am a multi-passionate person, which in a different point in my life, it's been a blessing and it's been a curse at the same time, right? But even that multi-passion, like, it raises its heads in different spaces. I want to do this and I want to do that, but we are, as society, we love simplicity, right? Everybody just wants to put you in a box. Like, if you're a doctor, this is how you should behave. If you were this is how you should behave. This is what you should be doing. And my first experience of I am not one thing, really, I mean, I would have experienced that at different points in my life growing up in a society like Nigeria. But then when I was in med school, I remember when I had then gone viral on social media, then thought, hey, they say success happens when opportunity meets preparation. I've been preparing for sharing and empowering other young Black women who want to go to medical school. Now that I've gone viral, I'm going to take this opportunity to create a series. So the very first series I created on YouTube was called medical school series, where I would do all of this content to empower other people who wanted to go to med school. And the reaction that I got from the healthcare community was just very, very toxic. I was threatened. This is so
Mm,
unprofessional. Doctors should not be on social media. You're embarrassing yourself. You're doing this. You're going to lose your job. I got all of these threats. And that was my first experience of I'm not one thing. I mean, I could be a doctor, but hey, I'm a knowledge sharer as well, and I love
mm,
tech, and this is how I can share the knowledge by creating content. And if creating content makes me a YouTuber, that's fine. So what? I'm a doctor and
mm,
a YouTuber, right? And so and then growing up, building community of women where all of these gender stereotypes of women who have kids should not do this, women who do
mm,
this should not. There just been so much of the stereotypes, and I just thought, hey, you know what, screw this. I will do whatever I want, whatever brings me satisfaction in my job, and is good for my family as well. I will pursue,
mm,
and then I just realized that I'm not alone. There's so many women who want to explore different things, who want to have a career shift, but everyone's just scared of stepping out of line, of climbing down that pedestal that they've been placed, of
mm.
disappointing somebody that they love. So everyone's just like, most people are just holding on a bit longer and a bit longer, suffering in silence. And I put that banner there because I'm like, hey, if somebody comes across my profile, I want them to know that no woman is one thing. You can be whatever you want to be.
Mm. I love that. Absolutely. I can relate to a lot of that multi-passionate stuff,
Yeah.
So yeah, we are not one thing. But what you are though, and you've mentioned a few times your Nigerian upbringing, right? And we know that Nigerian parents like certain types of careers, you know, and being an
Yeah.
influencer or creator is not on the
It's not
list.
one of
It's
them.
not on the list.
No.
So
No.
how did you overcome that with your parents and your family?
So I'll tell you that the one thing we know is very typical of certain Nigerian parents is, prescribing what career path their children will be on. But luckily, that was not my parents. My parents never
Mm,
told us what to study. I studied medicine. My twin sister studied law. My younger sister studied law. My mom's a lawyer. Like nobody, not my parents never told any of us what to study. But then again, of course, then choosing to study medicine made them proud, of course.
mhm.
So, when it came to that decision to then say, hey, I'm gonna leave medicine and then pursue entrepreneurship full time. I mean, the truth of the matter, let me tell you the truth of the matter is, yeah, I was very terrified of having that conversation with my parents. I was just like,
Mm,
there is no way. And at the time of deciding to leave medicine, of course, yes, my business was viable, but quite frankly, the
mhm,
thing that was paying me the most at the time was being a social media influencer. So, as far as my parents were concerned, right, if your business, your entrepreneurship business is not exceeding your medical career, you have no business leaving medicine.
mm,
And if you're
mhm.
leaving it to go and be a social media, what? No, that like no. So
Mhm.
I went through nights of visualizing that conversation with my parents. No scenario ended well. Literally not. So I was just like, let's rip up the band-aid all at once. I just filmed a YouTube video. I quit my job as a doctor, published it online. I was like,
Oh my
let all
God.
let all of us just hear it together. My dad, the next day, my dad screenshot that message. He was like, what is this? He screenshot my YouTube video. He was like, As in, if he was there, he'd be like, Madam, explain this. But till today, I never had that conversation with my dad. So
Wow.
the bottom line I'll tell you is courage is taking
Mhm.
action regardless of fear or consequences, right? So
Mm.
as far as where I am now, how I've gotten to where I am is courage. And that courage doesn't mean that I do everything fearlessly. I still have the fear, I still have visualizations, I still go through all of the consequences. And I just say to myself, I ask myself, do I want to do this? Will it make me happy? Is it right for my family? Is everyone my immediate family? And if the answer is yes, I'm like, yeah, damn the
Mhm.
consequences. Yeah.
Hmm. I love
Yeah.
that fire. You
But you
know.
know, one other saying I like is right, and because so for me, we've kind of established that I'm not too I'm not recklessly spontaneous. So if I make a
Mhm.
decision, I would have thought about it. And even though the success is not there at the time, I believe in myself that committing to it
Mhm.
will bring the success, right? And so when I make these decisions, even though I've made so many decisions that at the time of making it, even the people around me, even my husband
Mhm.
can't see the vision, but I tell myself, I see the vision, it's enough for
Mm.
me. And I love the saying that when they don't know, when no, when you no, what's it? When they don't understand, they ask you why, and when you succeed, they ask you how, right? And
Mm.
that has always been the case where, it was so uncool to be a social media influencer as a doctor, but then the moment the medical industry copped onto it, all of my medical friends, like I was doing one-on-one coaching with lots of doctors about how to build their personal
Mm.
brand on social media, because now they're asking how do you do it. Initially it was why. So
Mhm.
for me
Mhm.
is I've always just taken that courage and that belief in myself to just take a leap of faith and see how it works. And that doesn't mean I've not experienced failures. I have failed woefully, but
Mhm.
it's always been a
Mhm.
learning for me. Yeah.
My God, if we had more time, I want to
If you
prod
have
on some of those failures and all of that because I think it's and even like the whole vision, carrying that vision. Yeah, you're clearly a visionary,
yeah.
somebody who
Yeah.
sees it and goes for it. So
Yeah.
even that, how you got to be that something to poke into. There'll probably have to be a part two at some point if
There,
we,
there will
you
be
know,
for sure, for sure.
you know.
Plus, you have to come to my community then. So we'll have to bring your community to mine to listen to the part two.
Yes, yeah. Ah, yes, guys, you hear this? You hear this? There's gonna be a part two over in Adanna's community, right? We're gonna check that out. But listen, because we're literally at the final minute of this, what I want you to leave our audience with, and then you're gonna tell us how we can connect with you and all of that is
Mm.
what do you know today about building a visible and profitable business in the ways that you've done it that you wish you had known earlier and that you would now advise somebody else?
So that the consistency of what you do, the consistency of putting out what you do is very important. That's what I didn't know before. So again, on the content creation side, it was content videos, but on LinkedIn specifically, that's quite different. That's more it's mostly that people are wearing their professional hats, and I know that LinkedIn is welcoming a lot of personal sharing now, but it was more the professional hat, and that's something I know now that I didn't know before. And obviously getting you as a coach really helped me know that, right? So sometimes it's easy to talk to people about like what they know now without you understanding how they got there. But when I think about what I know now, you, Mildred, are one of the reasons I know what I know now. So it's
Mm.
about that
Mhm.
consistency of putting out your work and just killing that imposter voice in your head that tells you, that makes you stuck in analysis paralysis. Like don't overanalyze, just hit send and it'll be crap,
Mm.
right? But over time, you learn by doing. Over time, you kind of realize how to phrase your things and throw in that one picture or video. But at least like there'll be a track record of the things that of the work that you've been doing. And you just don't know that one person that looks at it, goes into a board meeting and then says, "Hey, I came across this post. Let's invite this woman." That's usually that's how I
Mm.
got that's how I got to meet Bill Gates. So you never know.
Mm, mm. I love
Yeah,
that. I absolutely love that. And consistency is very high on my values. One of the things that's
yeah,
like just commit and stay consistent,
yeah.
so that is absolutely it. But oh my God, definitely I can in the comments, they're ready for the part two. Yeah. Dr. Lusola,
Yeah.
Janet, they're all ready for part two. So yeah, we're coming with that part two, but we've got to end part one now. And Adanna, thank you so much for being such a brilliant guest. People want to get hold of you. They want to find out more. They want to connect. The community that you're building for women. Where can we learn more about all of that stuff?
So House of Adana on every platform. But right now, if you go on the Instagram House of Adana, there is a Google link for you to fill out a questionnaire to be able to join the community. Because most of the
Okay.
intention, the value that I want to create, like the part two of this conversation, is gonna be within this close knit community. Because I know strategically that I have to separate the educational value from the viral content. So that's gonna have to be in a separate hub. You can go to my Instagram, House of Adana, and you'll find that link.
Fantastic, fantastic. So yes, absolutely. Please do join her on there. It is going to be, as you can tell from all the value she's shared in this conversation, that is going to be a space that you want to be plugged into. So please go to Instagram, check her out, and of course reach out on LinkedIn because we're on
LinkedIn,
LinkedIn.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. She will accept you on LinkedIn. Just mention this show. But yes, Adanna, thank you again for coming here tonight, for sharing the
Thank you.
inspiration and the wisdom and everything else. It's been brilliant having you on the show tonight.
Thank you so much, Mildred. Thank you. We're going to motherhood duties now, right? Yeah.
Of course, it's bedtime.
That time.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Enjoy
much.
it, and we'll speak
Thank
again
you.
soon. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. We are going to, I'm going to wrap this up because we are over time by a few minutes, but that was absolutely brilliant. If you agree that Adanna was a brilliant guest and, you learned something, you were inspired, there's a takeaway for you, please drop it in the comments. Later on, we're both going to come and kind of have a look and reply to things that we couldn't get to in this live session. But I want to thank you for being a part of the show. I want to thank you for joining me tonight for this very, very last interview in the series on how to build a visible and profitable business here on LinkedIn. So, as I said at the beginning, if you've missed any of the great conversations that we've had, there were 4 parts to it throughout this month of June. You can find that on my LinkedIn page when you click the tab of live events on my profile, or you can also go to my YouTube, type Mildred Talabi, and you'll find it there on YouTube. And of course, if you want to start being visible yourself and you want to learn more about how to build a visible and profitable business on LinkedIn, and you want me to help you with that, reach out, send me a DM. Let's have a conversation. We can talk about how to make it happen for you. Because as you heard from Adanna, you have got to start being visible. You've got to be visible, you've got to be prepared, and you've got to be consistent with it. And who knows, maybe you could be interviewing Bill Gates or meeting Denai from Black Panther, or other opportunities that are waiting for you when you start being visible. So don't delay. Make that happen today. Get in touch if I can support you in that journey. And the very last thing is, tomorrow is the very, 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 very last of all the whole month of June series, where I'm going to be doing a solo session exploring this topic of visibility and profitability even more. So join me back here tomorrow, but not in the evening, lunchtime, 1 o'clock tomorrow. That one is half an hour over lunch. Come and join me tomorrow, and let's wrap up this month with a bang. And then it's my birthday on Wednesday, so I'm off for the rest of the week celebrating. But okay, thank you so much for joining. Have a great rest of the day, wherever you're up to. Have a good night, have a good afternoon, have a good morning, wherever you are in your part of the world. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, connecting with you on LinkedIn. And yes, I look forward to seeing you start being visible on LinkedIn and beyond. Right. I'm out of here. Take care. Have a good night.